Howdy, folks. All right, so I'm going to go over a few things for our test that is going to be on Wednesday. All right, so our unit we're working on is one step linear equations. All right, so going through that, all right, I want to focus on one really important step first. The difference between this word, equations, and expressions. And if you heard the word before, expressions, as in like mathematical expressions, do not have an equal symbol at the end. So you can't solve for an expression, but you can solve for an equation. So if we look here, let's say 3x plus 5 equals 20. All right. Now here on this side, if we were to do just an expression, we just say 3x plus 5 without the equals 20 part. All right, so equations, expressions. All right, now let's start off with a two steps so we can break down the different parts of an equation and how to, before we learn how to solve it. All right, so let's look at that equation again. 3x plus 5 equals 20. Now, if you tell yourself, oh, hello, if you tell yourself that you already know the answer, that's awesome. All right, but we're going to follow the process here. All right, so if you'd like to write it on paper, like you can follow along. All right, so first let's look at what each of these parts represent. Do you know? So each of these parts is what we call a term. Okay. All right. Each of these parts is what we call a term. All right. We can break these terms into smaller parts, specifically calling the 5 and the 20 are constants. All right. And then let's focus on this term right here, 3x. 3x can actually be divided into two parts. All right, starting with here. All right, x is our variable. All right, our variable is a letter that represents an undefined number or value. All right, it doesn't have to be x. It could be A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, J, K, L, M, N, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, and Z. Any of those letters. All right, now here on this side, we have the 3. All right, so the 3 is what we call a coefficient. All right, now the coefficient is a very important thing because of this word right here that helps us identify which part is the coefficient. It's this prefix co. All right, when we say like words like cooperate or collaborate, all right, we think about it working or making something together. So we can say coefficient is the number that is with the variable. Alrighty? Now, hopefully you have that copied down. Let's move into solving an equation. All right, there is an important fact and step we do, and we call it the inverse. Inverse operations. All right, so we say if we're adding, then how we get it? Subtracting. So if you have an addition in your problem, to get rid of that addition, you subtract. So if you have x plus 7 equals 32, we say this is a plus 7, so we minus 7. All right? Same vice versa. If we have a subtraction in our problem, x minus 15 equals 45, we say minus, this gets a plus 15. All right? Sometimes you can think about them like integers. We have, when you have a positive and a negative 1 together, we call them a zero pair, so they cancel each other out. All right. Now, for multiplication and division, those are opposites of each other. So if we have 3x, these numbers are paired together like we saw earlier. When there's nothing between them, we always call it multiplication. All right? Equals 15. All right? Now, here we say, how do we get this 3 gone from this x? We divide out the 3. Okay? Same with division. All right? If we have x over 3 equals 15, we say, what's this 3 here? Division, multiply it out, cancels out. All right. Now, let's go into actually solving. All right? Now, this says 1 step. So we're going to start with that, and I'll show an example of 2-step like we did it earlier in our in the video. Now, let's say x plus 8 equals 14. All right? Now, if you already know the answer, awesome. Way to go. Well, let's look at the steps here. We need to get x by itself. Always. The goal is always to get x independent. So I do the inverse operation of what's here. So this is plus 8, so I minus 8. Those cancel out, and I always do the same thing on the opposite side of the equal symbol. So since I subtracted 8 here, go over here, subtract 8. All right, so x equals 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. All right, so I say the answer is 6. All right, now I think it's 6. The way to check it is to plug it back into your original equation. 6 plus 8 equals 14. You add it up, it works out. So there you go. That's solving your 1-step equation. The same thing works if you have a minus symbol, multiplication or division. All right, now going in here, let's look at solving maybe an extra step. All right, let's look at that problem from earlier. 3x plus 5 equals 20. All right, we need to solve for x here. We have to get x by itself. So I start with the easiest thing I can remove that doesn't need to be split from a coefficient. So I look here, and that's the 5. It's a plus 5, so I minus 5. All right, go over here, minus 5. All right, 20 minus 5 is 3x equals 15. All right, this goes down here. Now, 3x equals 15. I divide here, do the same on each side. These 3's cancel out. 15 divided by 3, x equals 5. Does x equal 5? Let's look up here in our equation. 3 times 5 plus 5 equals 20. Well, 3 times 5 is 15, plus 5, 15 plus 5 is 20. That's right. That is how we solve our 1-step linear equations.